we've been having some fun with certain YouTube critics and their tendency to, well, essentially flip-flop when it's very politically or financially convenient. And one of the bigger YouTubers now is Nerdrotic, and his basic MO is to constantly, even if it's not there, to whine about intersectional feminism, woke this, woke that. Sometimes he's very accurate within terms of things like Game of Thrones, but generally speaking, Gary, who is at least a comic book reader, gets a lot of stuff wrong. But what you appreciate is he does admit he's wrong in certain places, but only part of the way. So recently with Eternals, he's gone crazy that many mainstream critics don't like the film. It's received a Rotten Tomatoes score, and it seems very, very mixed. And yet these are the same critics he routinely calls shills, the Axis media, bunch of traitors, bunch of idiots, anti-American communists, so on and so forth. So his basic selling point is always, I am not like them. I would never sell out. They're totally worthless. But now, with the Eternals, he's happy to quote them, and he approves of their disapproval of Eternals. But of course, we have to prove, well, really, did he say these things? Did he really castigate all of the Axis media? And yes, when he was reviewing the Joker a couple years ago, that's exactly what he did. He said that they were all worthless, none of them are trustworthy, I don't like them, and I don't like their agenda. So we're going to hear the Joker review and then the Eternal review, and you'll see if there's a wee bit of hypocrisy going on.
I think you're just going to love it. Now, we're going to get in the spoiler section in a second, but I want to talk to you, Access Media. It's obvious what kind of axe you have to grind with this film because it's not pushing your woke narratives, and it is a case study with white male lead. And this whole narrative of incel violence, I don't know who invented that. It sounds like an Access Media invention to me. I'm not sure if that military warning was real or not. I'm guessing it was, but that is the single most ridiculous thing ever. We got patted down before we went in the film. There were metal detectors, and that's fine. I'm all about safety. That's great, but it was hysteria. And that was hysteria created by the Access Media.
But instead, Marvel and Kevin Feige made sure to check every single box, which should have enamored every single critic, right? The hot gods of Eternals will bore you to death with their feelings. Oh my God, this is a guy after my own heart. In the latest MCU movie, sexy superheroes care more about their own melodramas than the humans they're supposed to be saving, so that explains Thanos. Eternals is a disaster of intergalactic proportions. Writer-director Chloe Zhao follows her Best Picture-winning Nomadland with one of Marvel's worst movies yet. Damn. With Eternals, Marvel is scraping the bottom of the barrel. At the risk of offending the thousands of new Eternals experts out there, thanks to Wikipedia and Comicstorian, and at risk of offending the 5 or 6 actual Eternal fans out there, it is scraping the bottom of the barrel. This brings us to Rotten Tomatoes, where this film was in the 70s just 2 days ago, and now it has dropped from 63% today to 62%. Scratch that, 61%. And if we go to the top critics, it's at 50%, with 26 top critics checking in.
Now, to be fair to Gary, earlier in the review, he did say he got Joker wrong. He was worried that it would, quote unquote, be woke because he heard Alec Baldwin was going to do a kind of Donald Trump impression. And that made him very scared. And he was initially excited, but when he heard Alec Baldwin was involved, suddenly his excitement went away. Well, putting aside that Alec Baldwin is perfectly capable of giving great performances, and he's been in a lot of good movies, that's pretty ridiculous to even make that kind of claim that, well, I guess like an infectious disease, he's going to destroy Joker. Now, my own point of view with Joker is I think it's an okay film, but I wasn't very impressed with it. I have to see the Eternals to judge it, but I'm at least consistent. I'm laughing at both sides because I don't trust the mainstream media, period. So when they tell me a film is really great, I'm skeptical. When they tell me it's really bad, I'm skeptical. At least I'm consistently skeptical on both ends. But I don't propose to be a quote populist like Gary saying, you can't trust the big media companies, trust my small media company. But then when the media says something he likes, he magically approves of what they're doing and saying. So there you go, he's been caught red-handed, just liking, quote, the Axis media when it parrots his narrative, but when they push their narrative, he doesn't like it. So, it is what it is. He's become much more political, despite what he's saying, and saying he's only about the fans and the lore, blah, blah, blah. But it seems like he's just becoming a kind of Fox News or CNN for his audience, which is fine, but this really doesn't have anything to do with Lord of the Rings or even about Joker. It just seems like he was already judging it from a political angle, and The Eternals is bad, I guess, because it has gay people. I don't know. It's becoming very weird in terms of what he judges things now. It seems like it's almost completely political. He does occasionally do a good review here and there. He did like the Snyder Cut. He had a very decent review on Suicide Squad, but again, at least in terms of some major projects, he puts politics first and then distorts honestly what was happening. I agree with him. There was a bit of a panic over Joker that was not necessary, but no, there is a real thing called right-wing violence, and it has been growing over the last decade. I've studied this thing for about 20 years. This is a real trend. It's not made up. Was Joker particularly going to incite people? I don't know, but it actually does happen. I mean, somebody did watch Taxi Driver and try to assassinate people. So, despite what he's saying, no, it is a real thing. What was it good that they pushed the panic button? Probably not, but again, unfortunately, it is a real thing. But again, he's become so stupid now. He just relies upon his prejudices and reports what he feels and thinks, even if there's no factual basis. At least that's where I stand with Nerdrotic's increasingly bizarre hypocrisies. Thanks for listening.